In this video, we're going to look at the ternary operator in PHP and how it provides a lot cleaner syntax to us instead of using an if statement if an if statement isn't required. So we'll jump in and actually take a look at a quick example, and we might want to check that something's true and return a value, or we might want to do something entirely else. We might want to echo something based on the fact that a value equals another value. So I'm just going to say admin equals true, and we'll use this as the basis for what we output to the page. Now traditionally with an if statement we say if and else, and we say if admin equals true with type checking, echo you are an admin, otherwise echo you are not an admin. So we already know how this works. We've seen it by looking at if statements already. In this case it says you are an admin, and if we change this to false, then this expression will obviously not evaluate to true, and therefore we see this part of the else block. Now this is a little complicated for the fact that we're just outputting something based on the fact that a variable is either true or false. So how can we improve this? Well, we can actually change this 5 line piece of code to one single line, and we do that using a ternary operator. So the first thing that we do is we either assign the value of the ternary operation to a variable, we output it, anything that really it works in relatively the same way. The benefit of this is obviously that we only need to do this on one line and use echo or an assignment once. So this looks slightly confusing, but once you use this, it saves a lot of time, it looks cleaner, and it's easier to read. So I'm going to say echo, and I'm going to put brackets here straight after echo. Now this is a little weird, but this is the same as the brackets in an if statement. So in this case we can put our the expression that we want to evaluate to true or false in here. So I'm going to say if admin is equal to true. Now what happens now? Do we use curly braces? This looks a bit strange. Well, we don't. We use a question mark. Now this is basically the equivalent of saying run this if this expression evaluates to true. So in this case I'm just going to use single quotes. Now why am I using single quotes here to say you are an admin? Well, think of it this way. If we get rid of this check, this is perfectly valid syntax. So all we're doing is we're saying if this is true, this should be what comes after echo, basically. Now for an else we use a colon. So here we can say you are not an admin. So this is basically the equivalent to the if statement that we created a moment ago, but it's all in one line. So when I refresh it, it says you are not an admin, and then when I change this to true and we go ahead and refresh the page, it says you are an admin. So we've done this effectively in one line. Now we can get a little bit more complicated than this. So other than the complicated expressions that we could come out with and place inside of our brackets, we can actually perform other ternary operations inside of these blocks. So for example, if I was to say moderator equals true. Now let's just assume that to be a moderator you have to be an admin as well. So what we could do is we can say you are an admin, and then we could go ahead and concatenate on another string and check whether they're a moderator as well. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to, just for simplicity, wrap this in brackets, and then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say moderator true, and we'll just say you are also a moderator, and then we'll say otherwise. In fact, we'll just leave it at that, and we'll use an empty string. So this is starting to look a little bit complicated, so probably not recommended for one single line because we're stretching a little far and it just decreases the readability and understandability of this code. So what we're basically doing here is we're just saying, is this user an admin? Yes, you are an admin. So we basically output everything, or we run everything here, we automatically output this single this string here in single quotes. But then we concatenate on this string if this is true, or an empty string if it's not true. So in this case, what's going to happen is when I refresh, you're also a moderator. Oh, we'll need to get rid of that and place that in brackets, sorry. So we're outputting this, and then we're concatenating on the check here. So let's go ahead and just rerun that. There we go. So you are an admin, you are also a moderator. What we can then do is, if we're not a moderator, that will just remove that. And if we're not an admin, even if we are a moderator, which doesn't make sense, or in this case doesn't make sense, it just says you are not an admin. So that's the ternary operator. We've looked at a slightly more complicated example in terms of putting another ternary operation inside the first result of this, or the true block of this ternary operator. But for small things, like if we just revert to our previous example, like this, you are not an admin, this makes a lot more sense, because if you're just trying to quickly output something to a page based on the result of something, it just means that you don't have to use an if statement where it's not necessary.